Happy Wednesday, Wisconsin. How's it going, everybody? Thank you for stopping out to another episode of the podcast with Bobby Beans. Shout out to we got to start real quick. Let's keep it in order, Bob. I'm excited. Got a great guest tonight. Had a great weekend, thanks to a lot of you down in Madison. But we'll touch on that in a second. Let's stay calm and collected here. We're gonna touch base with the Ignite Dispensary. Shout out to Ignite Dispensary and Cigar. Much love for hanging out with us down at HempFest. And for basically helping run the booth with Josh and Kim. Much love to those two. I knew I would be helping with HempFest, and it turned out awesome. But without those folks helping with the booth, we would have missed a lot of you guys who were stopping by to say hi and get some swag, that kind of stuff, and touch in on advocacy. So much love to everybody who helped with that. Hopefully you guys got a chance to try those drinks from Ignite. They got the lineup. They got the products. And again, shout out to the team from Ignite, mainly Kevin and Jasper, who were there with us. We've got locations for Ignite across the state in Milwaukee, Spooner, Hayward, Superior, Manitowoc, and New Richmond. If you're around there, make sure you check it out. We got Randy in the house. Randy, thanks for hanging out with us this weekend. Great to see you. Carrie, thanks for stopping by. We got Mohican. It's a pleasure meeting you in person, buddy. Appreciate your time down there at the Capitol. And getting a chance to smoke it up a little bit there. That was awesome. Heath is in the building as well. Heather's late. Heather, I got to meet you in person. That was wonderful. Just a great weekend. Just reflecting on that real quick. Again, shout out to everybody. It was overwhelming with awesomeness. Getting to meet a lot of you guys, the connections we got to make with some of the big players from Minnesota, and a lot of exciting ideas, brainstorming, that kind of stuff. So really looking forward to what that brings to the table for us. Definitely feel a sense of, I wouldn't say reinvigorated, because I feel like I've done a pretty good job of not getting down on the fact that, knowing this is not a quick process, as somebody like Jay, who's been at this a lot longer than I, but I do struggle with patience. Like waiting for my daughter to come. I was telling my wife when we were talking about if we were going to have another one, I was like, I don't know if I can wait another 9 months now. I could, but I just get excited. So it is frustrating some days, obviously, as I'm sure Jay will be able to touch on, as far as you can't always get common sense to get through to people. But man, just seeing you guys and getting to meet you guys, and then those connections. Just wait till you see this idea. I'm working on the details. Y'all, I think this is gonna get Voss's attention. It's legal, it's fair, and it might be a lot of fun. So we will see. All right, I'm gonna stop yapping, because it's not every day we get a chance to sit down with somebody who's gonna have as much knowledge on the topic of what we typically talk about here on the podcast, which is cannabis and cannabis in Wisconsin. Super appreciative of what this man has done over the course of the many years that he's been in the game. I wouldn't even call it a game, because it's a lot of work. It's very trying, and I have a lot of respect for him. One of the main things being let's get him in here. Why am I still talking when I got you down here, Jay? Jay, what's going on, man?
Hey, Bobby. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. And real quick, but one thing that I think you'll be able to maybe just kind of reaffirm this is the way that it kind of works. Like, because you and I were talking in the green room here. We've had those sales jobs, we've had those chances to make really good money, that kind of thing. And I'm assuming the reason you do what you do is because similar interests and similar passion. Like, it doesn't feel like you're working when you are fighting for what's right, when you're educating on something that is very misunderstood, especially when, right? Like, there's that similarity between, we just really enjoy trying to figure out this puzzle, but it's also sometimes, every once in a while, I kind of am like, man, as much as I hated, I had to hit my monthly bonus, I had to have this dollars per transaction, but at least I could always okay, where am I standing exactly? Oh, cool. We're way ahead of the curve. Great. Sometimes in the advocacy, I'm sure it's, you've got to be nice to yourself. Someone explained that to me this weekend, right? Like, right? Is that something you run into ever, Jay?
Well, you got to really, if you can enjoy what you do every day, it's not really work anymore. So you know, you kind of have to take that with advocacy also, you know, not just cannabis advocacy, but any advocacy altogether. You know, the steps that is required to do that. If you don't like those things, you're probably not an activist and you're not going to have fun doing it, you know, but you really got to have fun doing what you do,
Right.
whether it's work, play, or anything, and makes life a little bit easier.
Well, and that's like the Hemp Fest this weekend. It was so nice to finally, and I'm sure that'll be like when you go to your, I know, excited for this pizza pot and politics. Like those events really are refreshing,
You know,
and a
and that's
great chance.
oh
Great
yeah,
chance.
definitely, definitely. You know, and I'm sad I did miss Hempfest. It was always a great time to recharge, meet new people, rekindle old relationships,
Sure.
do some good planning, have a nice, you know, circle session, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, great. The what we need in Wisconsin though is like several events going on at the same time simultaneously in
Sure.
every corner of the state, you know, and that's where I know you mentioned other advocacy groups that, you know, early on when I first started doing this, well, when I first started doing this, hemp wasn't even legal in Wisconsin, so
Sure.
it was a whole different
Tradition.
atmosphere and
Yep.
landscape. But we worked with a whole bunch of other organizations, not just cannabis specific, but you know, ACLU, this and that. But we had a protest that we did, and it spawned back because I lived on the Michigan border, worked up on the Michigan border, and there was a guy who worked for Walmart who was fired for using medical cannabis for his cancer, and it sparked a lot of news. So we kind of, you know, based off that, we weren't really protesting Walmart per
Sure.
se. We were really just trying to make awareness for medical marijuana in Wisconsin, and we just chose Walmart as the location to do it. But we had like 12 different protests go on same time, same day, made
That's
news, major
powerful.
headlines, you know, and that
Sure.
was, you know, stuff like that. If we could repeat and rinse and do that again and again and again, sustainably, you know, that's part of the challenge too.
No, that's awesome. That's some good insight and something that looking forward to in a couple of ideas we've shared here over the last couple of days to try and get that to grow those events and like you say, I think that would be huge if we could coordinate the togetherness at multiple locations. That's
Yeah,
something I think we should definitely put in.
Wisconsin's a big state geographically. It's hard to
Sure.
cover it all as a even just as a one person, or you know, that's why when they run for office and you have a candidate who's running a big campaign, they have a pretty big team that works with them.
Sure. Nope. Very good point. All right, man. Let's kind of chop up into a little bit of the conversation that we have outlined here. We had some comments come across, put them together here, some questions, that kind of stuff. So we're gonna kind of kick that off as soon as my screen don't die. There we go. All right. So you touched a little bit on your journey. Is that like with the Walmarts? Is that kind of what spearheaded the Wisconsin Cannabis Activist Network that you currently are in, or is that, or I guess let's just take it back to the very beginning of your cannabis activism. What, where were you at? What were you doing? I mean, obviously, you don't have to be all the specifics, but you know, what at what point were you like, okay, I'm assuming you were using cannabis. This helps me. This should be helping a lot more people. I'm going to do something about it. Do you kind of remember how that happened?
Yeah, actually, you know, it's vivid in my mind. I revisit it often. It actually came down from watching a TV show, really.
Okay.
So in the back of my mind, at the age I was at, so I got involved in 2009. So at that time in my life, I had a bucket list of stuff I kind of looked at. One of, you know, you look at this bucket list periodically, be like, okay, cross some stuff on, add some stuff off. You know what I mean? So, but one of the things was get elected to something. You
Mhm.
know, so that was just on the bucket list. Get elected to something. So that was in the back of my mind, and then like the next day or two, I watched Good Morning America show. Maybe it wasn't even Good Morning America. Anyways, it doesn't matter the show. It had Mieko Hester Perez, who was out from California, and she had a severely autistic child that she was going to treat with cannabis. And at that time in California, juvenile or pediatric cannabis use was still kind of taboo or new or whatnot.
Sure.
So that at least that program and just, you know, everything about it and the way she spoke, and I knew family members or I knew other people in my community who had family members who went through the same thing. And, looking at the different options that we have here in Wisconsin versus the options they had there in California, California, they ended up treating this child with cannabis brownies. And, he went from nonverbal autistic to having actually some, she was basically given a deathbed sentence for her child, said,
Wow.
okay, he's not a candidate for a feeding tube, take him home and let him die. And so she was a research lawyer. She started doing her own research. She was a non-cannabis user, lived in Orange County, California. So anyway, she found a protocol from a doctor that said use cannabis for these types of kids. So they did. And like I said, long story short, within 9 months, he gained weight, became some verbal. It didn't cure him. He didn't last forever. Unfortunately, he did pass away.
Sure.
But the last years, months, weeks of his life were much more meaningful, I think, both to him and to his parents. So, and then
Sure.
Wisconsin, families that were faced with this type of situation often sent their child off to an institution to die or gave them up to the state, so
Right.
so that's what kind of kicked me off. That I said, after that, I said, I'm going to do something about it, about the marijuana reform, and so then I just started doing some stuff. And then I realized that type of benefit, not only for juvenile people, but for people all around me in my community, my neighbors, my cousin. So
Sure.
I just became more aware of the issue, and that marijuana was medicine, that it wasn't just recreational. So I really did start as a medical marijuana activist, and that's what got me inspired is those types of stories and
That's
other
awesome.
similar ones that people in my community shared with me when I began talking about this.
No, definitely, man, and that's neat because similar situation here with I just was in the stressful situation at Ford for 7 years, but paid really well, like we were talking about. It's nice to build a little nest egg, so on and so forth. You kind of deal with it, and then it was just like to the point where we were looking at starting a family. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find some kind of enjoyable work. Did not think it would be in a cannabis dispensary setting. That just kind of fell into my lap where I was like, that's interesting. And once I figured out, the hemp products and how effective they can be and all that stuff. But I definitely didn't see the advocacy part. I mean, obviously talking to those that are working in the stores underneath me, obviously I'm hyping them up and doing the education and sharing that with them. But just kind of like you were saying, it was when you got one of my favorite customer was a lady walking in, little old lady. She walks in the door to the dispensary, smells like wonderful flower all over the place. And she goes, "Oh, I've been waiting 87 years to walk into a place like this in Wisconsin." And then she's listing off how now it helps her with her pain. It helps her with that. And, and again, like people like yourself who have been on this front line for longer than I and longer than a lot of other folks and doing that work. Like it's crazy when we think about the amount of effort that's went in, let alone the benefits the plant has and the reason it should be medical, to think about all the work that has gone into it. And now it's just like, I will do whatever I can. So like, if I can plug something for you, if I can put that over here for that guy to see or whatever, like, let's keep working together. And there's definitely some politics in Wisconsin, I guess, right? I guess that's how we can sum that up. As far as
well, politics or not, marijuana is everywhere in Wisconsin. It's always been, it always has been.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And prohibition. When I talk to people, especially, it's always, what's your first, how do you approach somebody? So I generally like to do a little bit of homework first, but sometimes you just don't have a chance and this kind of stuff. So
jump in.
I always kind of ask, what is the goal of prohibition? Especially when we're talking to the Republicans, some Democrats too, but mostly Republicans. What is the goal of prohibition? And then, is it working? And then, are there alternative models that can be used? And
sure,
I mean, if we treated cannabis more like a health issue rather than a criminal issue, just when we start from the umbrella overlooking things, if we just said, okay, let's try to make laws based on this health wise versus criminal wise, we'd have a whole different outcome also.
That's a great point, man. Great point you got there. Next question I had on deck here. What has been the most significant challenge you faced in advocating for cannabis legalization in Wisconsin?
So in Wisconsin, it's probably been not having the ballot initiative that would be a binding referendum to force the state to take action. So I moved to Michigan for a little while, and I worked on Proposal 1. I worked on several campaigns there, but I was the county coordinator for the Prop 1 when we went legal there. So, obviously that was the path to success there. We believed that the public supported it, and if we could put it on the ballot, they would vote in favor of it. And then in Michigan, it forced the legislation to take action, and we just don't have that type of trigger mechanism here in Wisconsin.
Sure. Nope. Valid points, and frustrating point for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We've got, can you share a success story or a moment that has stood out to you in your advocacy work so far? I think the Walmart was a good one, but I think you've probably got a couple more. So I'm going to.
Yeah, well, we've been doing this a while, so it's hard to pick just one. But I did have an event, again, very early on when I started this in a small town. I called it the THC Expo. Really, we were talking hemp and cannabis. And at that point, hemp wasn't even legal, so we had plenty to talk about. But we had put together like a forum style expo event that featured several different organizations and people who supported drug policy reform, industrial hemp. I mentioned the lady from California. She came here to Wisconsin, and we had it in a small town. And it was like, not only was it very well attended, but it received, a tremendous amount of publicity and really helped catapult me into realizing that this was a valuable thing that I was doing. It was an important thing I was doing. It was a patriotic thing I was doing. So that's more event related and, feel good stuff. As far as like legislation goes, Prop 1 was pretty neat to work on a campaign that actually legally
got something.
Yeah. Actually did something.
You could see the result.
Yeah, but I was out in DC. I lobbied DC also on a federal basis. My emphasis right now is state policy reform here in Wisconsin, but nonetheless, I was out in DC for lobbying efforts. The first time, and I was in the senator's office the first time the words medical marijuana were codified into law.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was during an appropriations bill, so that was pretty important.
Sure. And, that's something you'll have
to be there for that historic thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool, man. Very
Definitely
cool.
Was cool.
And I got a quick question from Javin Maynard. He says, Jay, did you know Pres Bob, American Cannabis Society?
So I did not know Pres Bob. I know his son a little bit. I got a couple shirts that I had bought back in my youth when I used to attend and do stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't know Pres Bob.
Okay, fair enough. Let's check out the next one we got here, Jay. What strategies have been most effective in getting lawmakers to listen and engage on the topic of cannabis legalization?
For me, it's been my election coverage.
Okay.
So I do pretty extensive election coverage, which not only archives past candidates and has a database that's kind of connected to existing politicians and where they stand on cannabis reform, but I also contact new candidates for office, mostly at the state level.
And real quick, is that the Jay Selthofner, the 2024 election coverage, that link?
Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I'm gonna drop that real quick.
Yeah, and then I syndicate that the election coverage to several other sites that I work with, the Wisconsin Cannabis Activist Network site, the normal sites that I work with.
Sure.
Depends on the election cycle. Previously, when I first started doing this, marijuana was not really widely questioned by mainstream media, and then there was a few election cycles where all the mainstream media was questioning candidates about marijuana, and now it's weaned off again where we pretty much know the party philosophy on it. Individual candidates now have to make their own noise a little bit, whether they support it or not support it. And I'll help them do that. I'll make sure, especially if you don't support it, I'll let people know.
No, for sure. I think that is very valid. And I kind of shared with you and it would make sense when I was first just trying to figure out how I could help or to do anything to get any kind of information. So just emailing some politicians like, hey, what's your stance? Well, nobody responds because, none of the Republicans responded because they didn't have to. But then when I started to realize, well, wait a second, I got to play their game. So then it was, hey, let's legalize Wisconsin. 20,000 Wisconsin voters would like to know. And if you're against it, you don't have to respond. Then you start getting a few emails back. But it is definitely a lot of the. No, I think it's. I can see it has a place, but I just can't do anything about it. And which is
Yeah, well, they're definitely, when they're asking for money or for votes, they seemed a little bit more apt to talk about the issues. So that's why the election coverage, I think, has been pretty important, for reform movement in general. But it also allows me to build relationships with people. We're the Wisconsin Cannabis Activist Network is not a corporation. We're people. We're from all walks of life. We all have different expertise. We all come from different avenues. We're all different political affiliations, denominations, etc. So we don't know what magic words are going to work with any individual representative, and sometimes just personalities clash. So it's nice to have that, that overall cohesiveness to come at it from all angles. Because again, it's weird how so I have to share kind of what turns a legislator or somebody from yes to no, and we don't really have the answer on that. But a lot of times they've told me it's come from a personal conversation with somebody, why they were out campaigning or out in the district or at a town hall event, and so I think
like
it's that
kind of like that story that touched you on the news.
Yeah, just it tugged at them or made the light bulb go on or whatever. So it's usually somebody says something like that is usually when they say that. That's what changed my mind on it. So
okay, right on, man. We got a quick question from Heather. Heather says, "How can we break the stigma? I can't get anywhere with people who are stuck on the stigma."
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's a loaded stigma. So I mean, it is definitely we have some stereotypes to maybe break, but I think the states that have done it and gone legal, and the world hasn't collapsed and the sky hasn't fallen there, shows that it is successful. So if people are data driven versus believe the hype stuff, I mean, the data's out there. The hemp bill is, the federal hemp bill, and how basically cannabis is everywhere in Wisconsin is also helping with that, because I mean, it is everywhere. There, from billboards to in the shops to in the gas stations. So it's very much normalized now too, and you give it time. Like I said, it'll be time. I mean, politics is slow to change, but so are so is country life and city life, and everybody's slow to change. So
Well, actually, I learned we had some awesome different medical professionals who deal with specifically the medicine and science of cannabis and the benefits. And I believe it was Megan the Cannoners who somebody had a really great question, and it was, why are nurses and doctors, when do you think they'll start to come around like fully to understand the science behind it and whatnot? And she had pointed out that ECS had been first put in textbooks, or was actually even just first discovered, the endocannabinoid system. I think it was in the early 90s, was it? Does that sound right?
Probably earlier than that. I thought CBD was isolated in the 70s and stuff like that.
Right. I think she was saying maybe it was getting put into the book starting in the 90s.
Okay.
But she had done some research, and they had come to figure out that only 9% of textbooks that are going out for medicine, people studying medicine, mention the endocannabinoid system yet. Like, that's how slow medicine moves. So it is frustrating, especially when you see those stories and the first time use. And just like when we're talking about somebody that asked if pregnant people should use cannabis, and there's not enough research, is what the one lady had said. But again, it comes down to, if you're sick and nothing helps you but cannabis, like, it is a medicine. Like,
the side effects from it are not as severe as most other, I mean,
exactly.
Cannabis has been used since antiquity in some way, shape, or form. But if we had just discovered it today, it would be considered a medical marvel.
Sure. So. No, it would, right? And it was back in the day, but
very much so. It was in majority of the pharmacopoeia.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's see here. Well, I had wrote that one, but that one is kind of silly. Well, I guess who can you okay, we're going to say, how does Wisconsin compare to other states in the Midwest when it comes to cannabis legalization efforts? Essentially, I think where I was trying to go with that, I was just a little tired writing that one out. But like, I again, nothing against Ohio. I just thought Ohio was a little more farmery and less with the times than Wisconsin. Who are we like? Is there anyone else in the
Idaho,
Midwest? Idaho?
Idaho.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
still stuck in the
I
Republicans
mean,
are.
surrounded by legal states and haven't done any movement whatsoever. If you're trying to look like pick on us geography wise, um, the legalization movement has been pretty strong in Wisconsin. If you look historically at other states, also, I mean, we have the longest running marijuana march that there is. You know,
Right.
Madison's decriminalization ordinance goes back for a long time. They've moved their ordinance along much more progressive than other cities have. Flash forward into there's still lots of advocacy going on, and at the state level with our candidates and even how our governor, you know, Governor Evers inside the United States, Governor Evers is looked at as a very strong governor for cannabis reform. You know, I don't think any other governor has put marijuana in the budget like Governor Evers
Oh,
has.
really?
No, that's a first. That's a big deal. You know,
Okay.
like as far as like, you know, I mean, there's even states that that are legal that don't deal with cannabis as much as he has as a governor goes. But yeah, the putting it in the budget was a big deal. You know, and even just him running on that type of platform. And yeah, no, I mean, nationwide, like I said, when we did I used to work with Normal, and we used to do like a smoke a vote campaign.
Sure.
So it's like a voter guide basically. But yeah, he was like one of the top rated governors. I think that was in 2018, and then the last time he run, he even scored higher because he had, you know, he first ran on, you know, oh, let's decriminalize, let's do a medical marijuana referendum to see where people go. Okay. Got elected. Shortly after being elected in office, he realized, ooh, public policy is way ahead of this. You know, let's move it forward even faster. And, you know, next election cycle, all of a sudden it's in the budget. I mean, that's historic stuff.
Sure. That's awesome, man. Real quick here, Carrie Ann dropped some information for us here. She said the ACNA, the American Cannabis Nursing Association, was able to get cannabis nursing recognized as a specialty with the American Nurses Association in 2023. That's awesome.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, when I first started, the Wisconsin Nurses Association was one of the biggest lobbying forces to push for the medical marijuana law,
oh, awesome.
hospice, and there was a few other ones there. You know,
Okay.
the big pushback was the Wisconsin Medical Society, but we had several, I'm going to say medical entities, if you want to call them, but those two stand out as the biggest that I remember: the hospice and the Wisconsin Nurses
No, that's awesome.
Association, or whatever they are. I forget their exact acronym.
No, for sure. And actually, a cool thing to get some information on was so up until just recently, like within the last year or two, it wasn't very long. If you were in a hospital and you mentioned you use cannabis, there wasn't just like a note where a doctor would typically just put in their personal notes like, "Oh, he uses cannabis." It was like cannabis or marijuana abuser, or like just this terrible term and this terrible the coding or whatever I guess it's called in the medical field.
Sure,
But we were informed by one of the nurses this weekend. Actually, I think she's a doctor too or whatnot. But there are now more codes. Now I don't know how they get adopted into, but like they're moving that along. So where it would be, you know, this person is a medical user. This person, just like if you're a social drinker, it would be a social cannabis user. Like I feel like
sure.
that's huge.
Uh, well, I guess on a personal doctor note, when anytime I ever spoke to my personal doctor about cannabis use, they've never told me to quit or told me not to use it. So
Sure, that's good.
yeah,
That's good.
I'm
Oh,
50. I'm 50, so
okay. They did. The nurses did say just to make sure that if like you're talking to your anesthesiologist or something, those people they
yeah,
don't care if you use cannabis, but they should definitely know if you use
yeah,
cannabis.
yeah, yeah.
That was kind of enlightening to me. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, something with
Yeah.
just how your
I
body
don't know.
responds. Yeah.
To me, it don't make sense to lie to your healthcare provider if you're really trying to get healthcare.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I feel that. Dawn has a comment here. She says, I expect to see Wisco remain unregulated following federal legalization, at which point the guys who have been sitting on this will be struggling to find their own a-holes trying to adapt. I could see some craziness for sure.
I mean, maybe, but I haven't seen any federal legislation that would trigger states to force to do something. Or, okay, if we have federal legalization, all of the bills have still just let states decide if they want. So just because it goes federally legal without a trigger mechanism here in Wisconsin, that don't mean shit.
No, that's fair. Heather says, my doc tells me to smoke one. You got a good doc.
There you go.
And that's what we were talking about too. Like, super common sense. If you are a legit, like, I just can't fathom these people who take that, like, if I'm a doctor, even if I'm not a cannabis advocate, and I guess there is a lot of stuff out there, right? Like a lot of different avenues, but something as popular as cannabis, how do you not take the time to do the research and to get some firsthand? I mean, how do you tell somebody like, oh, we got to make sure they get in trouble with like, you're a person of medicine. It doesn't matter if it's a prescription or not, folks. Like, the people that are doing it the right way, it shouldn't matter if they're selling you a prescription. That's what it is, right? Like,
So a lot of times just follow the money.
exactly.
Where does this person ride on the drug war gravy?
No, that's about. Oh, he said he might drop out because he's what does he? Oh, Starlink, and he said every once in a while, Bob, just a heads up, I get like 20 seconds where you might have to fill in. So I'm gonna fill in real quick while Jay reconnects,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna give you guys.
A good time. Oh. That's probably a good time to cut out because I was gonna go on a little bit of a rant there.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Real quick. So this is Jay. This is so cool. So you've kind of touched on something that you think is kind of needed in Wisconsin. I saw this weekend being at the biggest event I've been able to attend, and be a part of. The power that carries, just, people walking by, but so many people came that were just walking by and like, hey, I wanted to check this out, and like, you guys are out in the open talking about cannabis. This is awesome. Like, I feel like, that just gets some hope and gets some, you need some positive vibes. You need that community, and it was just beautiful, right? And to hear that you having the multiples and all that, like, so check this out. I am terrible at like holding on to things until they're completely polished and ready to go. I've kind of been teasing something the last couple days. We got a great group of commenters here, so I'm going to share it just with you guys and with Jay. This is the vision of what I think could really do some noise, and I noticed it after being down in Madison this week, and it dawned on me. How could I make sure I get my biggest thing, I think, is Voss's attention. Really put the pressure on Voss. Really put the pressure on the Republicans, who right now, even though we're trying to grow this online presence and we're having events, they're still able to just sneak in underground, get into the office building. Oh, we're not going to touch cannabis today, and then boop, go home. And so my mind was just churning, man, and the reinvigoration. Right, check this out. I think I have an idea, and it's going to take some crowdfunding for sure. I'm working on talking with a crowdfunding source to make sure that we don't break any rules. And this is what I'm envisioning. Whoop, that's the inside. What would something like that look like? Wait, here's the Capitol. A bus that meets at minimum once a month at the state capitol on a Friday at 4:20, and you put that everywhere that you're going to be there, right? And then now this bus can also go to different cities, and you don't have to. Bro, it took like 2 hours to get set up for this event, but if you're on wheels, that completely changes the scenario, right? So to start out with a crowdsourcing fund, okay, you guys all need to listen to this because I can't put this on the crowdsourcing website. This is not cannabis that's going to be sold on the bus. It's coffee beans, okay? We wouldn't be able to crowdsource if we were selling cannabis. Now, once we get funded and we get rolling, I think it would be great to intertwine the people that are selling hemp in Wisconsin. So, if we're going to Jay, wherever your farm is, we go to your town, we got a gathering. Jay's in here talking about his stuff with it. Like, I feel like I'm onto something. I think we could really make some noise, but please make sure you guys know, let your friends know, whoever, if this actually comes to fruition, which it's just been a lot of work on the computer, but I think it's come together. It's going to say coffee beans. It's a coffee bus. Consumption bus. but it's going to say once other things go legal, maybe we'll have green, right? That's the plan.
Right.
So just a heads up. Oh, and I came up with a name for it last night. Blunt Force.
Blunt Force.
Blunt Force. So stay tuned on that. Super excited. Terrible at surprises and not telling people. I'm like a little kid with it.
Yeah.
But I really hope we can get that thing out there.
Definitely an idea.
Yeah.
A lot of work,
Yeah.
But it's very similar to how like somebody would run a state Senate campaign. Like if you're really trying to, cover the whole state and do this tour and go from place to place to place to place to place. I mean, yes, that's a great idea. Mobile office. Like I said, when I first started, mine was just a GMC Envoy with a bumper sticker, So,
sure.
Honk if you love marijuana or whatever.
Yeah.
So, we had a activist vehicle at one time. We did some parades,
Oh, okay,
so,
sure.
yeah, but definitely the leap, and it's a good newsworthy thing too. Leap.
That's what I was thinking.
I worked with another organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. So so it was very interesting. But they had I forget what the name of it. But it was like the Caravan of Justice or Justice Caravan, where they did something very similar. I had the bus all decked out with all the speakers on it, and they had a speakers tour, went from state to state to state, and it was yes, do it.
Awesome.
Just do it. Wrap that thing. Maybe go a little smaller. I don't even know if you need that big a bus.
Oh, come on, Jay. I don't know why. I just picture so in the budgeting, I love ChatGPT because I'm just like, what are the things I'm not thinking of that would have to be covered in this budget? Because especially now that I have a kid.
Have you tried to park a bus like that in Madison by the Capitol yet?
Wait, what was that?
Have you tried to park a bus like that?
No, so but here's in the budget, Jay. In the budget it's like Uber, but for semi or bus drivers. I don't want to drive this thing, so it would be like a professional. And I even told myself, worst comes to worst, even if I have to move it, this thing we got to figure out how to equip it with like 360 cameras, parking sensors. But yeah, I hope I don't have to move it. But no, we'll figure it out. And
you can't be driving because you really need to be working while the driver is driving you around.
Nope,
you got to be on the phone and on the computer and.
Yep. Oh, and I forgot the biggest part of that too. In the back of it, it ain't very big, but it's a very clean podcast studio. Because Jay, I'm coming to your farm and we're going to talk and we're going to smoke and we're going to be on a fucking podcast.
There you go. I mean, like I said, it's that's of the level of enthusiasm and noise that needs to be made. And like I said,
Oh, so wait, if we really wanted to we could do. Hang on.
There's some places where.
What if that? Oh, I'm not sharing it. Sorry. What if this is just what AI made? But what if this guy was Voss's face with weed glasses on him and parking in front of the Capitol?
It might scare some people away.
I might. But no, that's crazy.
Yeah, because he's kind of not good looking.
He's scary.
Yeah, he's scary looking. No, you shouldn't make fun of people. He's fine looking.
Very nice guy.
He's a Voss.
He's a passionate fella.
He's passionate. Yeah, it's been tough. So not picking on him, but he's tried a little bit. I mean, he has, but he has the wrong philosophy because.
What's up, Jay?
When you're in that type of position, you really need to govern and not rule. So if politicians would just govern instead of rule, a lot of these things would just work themselves out, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. They all 100 of those people, all 100 of those assembly reps, probably have something good to contribute to in the when you're designing a bill, or have some sort of thought in there, consideration. But they should definitely be bringing that consideration from their constituents and what's for the best interest for their district, not their own personal opinions or bias, in my opinion.
Or pocketbook, because I swear there's got to be, with how against it you can be, there's got to be big money somewhere. I don't know. That's just my personal gut feeling, obviously, but sure be nice if you could know what was going. Well, actually, we probably don't want to know what's actually going on. I was talking about that with one of the folks at the fest, like, to just think about the amount of money that's out there, like without you being able to put your profits safely into a bank. Some of these dispensaries, like, can you only imagine the still mafia type style stuff that's happening out there, and it just probably don't want to know how this all works behind the bus. How elevated were you when you thought of the Voss bus? I was elevated for sure. Shout out to Ignite Dispensary. We're working on a little collaboration, so I had to try these gummies, and yeah, they were good.
That was the result of gummies.
That was my wife was. My wife was not pleased.
I wasn't there, but one time a bunch of my friends got kicked out for lighting up a joint outside Voss's office in the Capitol.
Oh, really? I've been tempted.
Oh, yeah, it stunk. The whole Capitol just reeked of cannabis, and yeah,
Well, no wonder he doesn't want to legalize. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the Capitol. Yeah, well, that was. I mean, yeah, that's just it. Eventually, you know, I mean, what, you know, how much do you do, and what do you do? I mean, I don't know. He's a tough one to crack. But we did have again. When I first got involved, the Democrats were in control, and we were pushing medical marijuana through. So, you know, things have definitely changed in that. But in that essence, is the Democratic Party has really moved leaps and bounds ahead of the Republicans in response to their constituents and public polls and science and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, like your bus idea, and even us going down to the Capitol, you know, sometimes bringing something new is just very well received. And in the Capitol, we did a lobby day once where we brought in a Native American singer, and he just lit up the whole rotunda with music. And we had so many legislators that came out just to see what was going on and talk to us. And then we soon realized that a lot of lobbying takes place in the hallways, not in the offices. And you gotta actually be able to know who your senator, or know all these assembly reps as they walk by. Because if you're riding in the elevator with them, if you're fucking on your phone doing this, and then you just blew your chance, you know.
Right.
But taking that bus to areas where marijuana reform has never been before, where there's never been an event, where there's never, you know. I mean, now there's a little bit of billboards every place, and almost every town has a smoke shop, so it's a little bit different. But, you know, somebody out there, you're going to make noise. You know, you're going to make noise. You're going to get attention for it. So
no, definitely. Javin says it's the only place you can't smoke legally in Wisconsin on state property. Jim says cocaine in the White House, and these brain dead people are worried about cannabis. Oh, Jim's one of those guys. All right, see you later, Jim. Nice knowing you. I should have pre-read. I thought it was going to be a normal comment. Javin says legally in Madison. That is. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Mark you know.
Oh, what was that?
You know, Madison is a perfect example of that. Even though we've been stymied at the state level, local decriminalization has actually moved pretty far along in Wisconsin, and that's still the low-hanging fruit here. You know, all politics. All politics are kind of local. It doesn't take, I mean, it takes a lot of work, but you're usually at a county or municipal level, you know, and if you have a friendly one or two council members or county board supervisors or whatnot, it doesn't take much to get the ball rolling there. Getting everything passed isn't always necessarily easy, but it's definitely geographically easier, and you should really start practicing where you live also.
No, that's a great point. Great point there.
People always used to ask me, when's the next meeting? When's the next meeting? And I would say, well, what county are you in, or what city are you in? And they would tell me, and I would say, well, I think you have 2 meetings a month there. You know, you have a city board meeting and a county board meeting.
Oh, there you go.
Start attending those.
Right. That's a great point. Real quick, let's kind of change it up to something awesome to talk about here, Jay. Let's talk about the event you got hosting coming up this weekend called Pizza, Pot, and Politics. Can you tell us more about the event and what you hope us to accomplish with that? And I'll get the link to share with the group here in the comments. In the meantime. Oh, did you freeze on me? Are you still there?
Back again.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. All right. So, yeah, if you could tell us just a little bit about the event you got coming up this weekend. What are can you tell us more about the event, what you're hoping to accomplish? We'll get a link in the comment section here for people to check out the details.
Well, you know, pot and politics really are going hand in hand today. It's an issue that isn't going away. It's always nice to get together with folks, like-minded folks, both in the political field and the non-political field. And sometimes it's good just to maybe set aside political differences for a time. And I think that's what marijuana can do. But sometimes just having a little bit of fun sets the tone for a good session, Nick session also. So the event is really threefold: kind of a light lunch, mingle with the people who are there. We're expecting some candidates to be there early. We got a dozen or so confirmed candidates. Some regional leaders, state leaders will be there also. Various business owners, obviously constituents.
Sure.
I'm going to say just a brief word or two, not too much. This is really about the candidates. Like I said, then we're going to have a short presentation from each candidate. We're not going to let them go more than 4 minutes and 20 seconds because anything longer than that, boom, they're going to lose us. So, and then at 3 o'clock, I thought maybe we'd try something. Try to get the Dems and the Republicans to work together right away and challenge us activists in a game of cornhole or cube or something like that.
That'd be cool.
And then hopefully, if that goes well and they don't whoop us, we'll smoke up.
Let's
and everybody said, what are you telling people to smoke up for? I'm like, every time I go on a lobbying effort or go to a different town, I always try to stop at the local smoke shop or whatever. There's plenty of products available here in Wisconsin that you can smoke up. I just tell people to bring their own because we're not vending at the event. The event isn't really a vending for our chapter or for businesses. This is to highlight candidates in the area that are running for office that care about cannabis reform, and they're probably going to ask for money and they'll receive money, and this is their time. Sure. We'll have our time.
Yeah, that's fair. What is, I got to ask, Coob? What's Coob?
So Coob is like Viking chess. It's kind of a combination between horseshoes and
all right, we're Googling.
Yeah, horseshoes, lawn darts.
What?
Yeah, it's a cool
game.
How
have I not heard about this?
Yeah. So it's going to be cool because you can have 6 players on each side. So we can have up to 12 players.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
I am gonna go buy one of these tomorrow. Like, I need to figure this out. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna whoop everyone. I'm gonna be there.
You're gonna win. You're gonna go buy one and practice, is what you're saying.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna be practicing all day. I'm
You're gonna need it because most people suck when they first play it.
Wow, that's cool. Okay. Is this actually like a thing they used to do way back in the day too? Is it like a, or did they just
Yeah, when I first Googled it, my uncle introduced me to it. My kid went to Eau Claire. Not that he played it out there, but Eau Claire was kind of like the Coob capital of the world for some reason. But my uncle explained it to me and told me it was a fun game. I never had a chance to play with him yet, but I got like for Father's Day or something, the family got me a set, and it was a pretty fun game. So yeah, I just kind of looked it up. But yeah, I think the story is that after the Vikings pillaged a village, they would play this game with the bones and heads of the leaders of the village. Leaders of the village that they just pillaged, just to let everybody else know, hey, we're
shit. Yeah. Jay's going in there to fucking prove a point, folks. He is going to prove a point. Maybe we need to take that approach, man. If you guys don't legalize, this could be your hit. No, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. That is just for comedic purposes only, of course. No violence.
So, every place that I've played the game, though, old people, young people, everybody's had a pretty good fun time with it. So I thought, and it's always good to try something new, So the candidates come from a wide variety of backgrounds. Sure. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a good point. Right on. Looking into it. Philip Scott says, off with their heads. Come on now. No, we're putting heads together. One
of our leaders is going to be there. One of our legislative leaders is going to be there. We can't cut her head off.
Yes. No, we got to take care of these folks. That's cool. I look forward to that. Let's see here. So, Jay, as you see, the main focus of Let's Legalize Wisconsin is to get, or at least the vision I had when I started it, was just to really kind of unite the voice of the people, which is, in my opinion, the majority. Now, obviously, a lot of them, or not a lot, but many people don't follow or can't let it be seen that they are part of Let's Legalize Wisconsin. Understand that. But still, working on getting this big voice of people that when there is something that can be done, hey, this needs to be done today. You need to sign this. Or if Voss is going to hold this thing tomorrow, we need as many people as we can to get there. That kind of scenario where I feel like Wiscan, the Cannabis Activist Network that you have, there's an opportunity there for people who are a little more involved and able to do more of the groundwork and the the signature or the knowing the people to call to get the meetings and that kind of stuff. What if there's some people that are listening and they want to get more involved in cannabis activism, but they don't know where to start? What is some advice you'd have for them?
The first question I usually ask people is, who's your elected official? And I just
Mhm.
ask them that. Do you know who your elected officials are? And wait for their answer. And generally, if they don't know, we go down one path. And if they do know, we go down another path. But if they don't know, I usually tell them that that's the first place to practice is, pay attention to what we're doing. Talk to us online, ask questions, look at the action alerts, look at the bill numbers that are out there, familiarize yourself with how a bill becomes law, with a little bit, just a little bit of background on this 101 stuff, on just government 101, and then practice on them. Contact your state rep, your state senator, your federal representatives, and begin that dialogue. And by doing that, you'll familiarize yourself with the verbiage and the process that we're talking about. And the next step would be, at least in my opinion, is seeking out candidates that are favorable, and then helping with their campaigns also, because that'll give you a lot of exposure to politics, back door, front door, and the work that is needed to do any type of campaign. And then you can take that experience and micro focus on a cannabis campaign.
Awesome. And I think I just kind of started to, or something just kind of dawned on me. I think it's almost something that needs to be, maybe we should highlight more, and that is that Wiscan and Let's Legalize are not the same thing. We're not trying to cross up each other. We're trying to, I feel like maybe what could really help us get things forward is having Wiscan, which is the people who are legitimately the activists, as compared to the people who are ready to do their small part, right? That they're just following that page, waiting for that thing to pop off, who go to some events, that kind of stuff. But then also to have like WeFont, Philip Scott, the farmers, right? I feel like it's going to take all of us to, I feel like we're kind of all going at our own little places right now, but I think we need to just highlight on like, we all are looking for that same end goal. And it's going to come a point where we need to go like this. And that's how we're gonna knock them over like a game of Kug or Coog.
Coob. I think Coob. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I've never heard it pronounced. I'm just going with that.
Fair enough. But like, I know just like when I first started, there was just some people who are like, what are you trying? I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to have a platform and get as many people to follow it as I can. It's going to have jokes.
Well,
it's going to have this kind of stuff. And,
I mean, typically that's what a podcast or a podcast is you're going to have a variety of topics, cannabis related and personality wise, and stuff that's going on that's timely, history, facts. That's the beauty of the platform itself, is it allows you to do what you need. On the activism side or lobbying side, or pushing through bills, I know one thing that's very, very important is a lot of times when the leaders, when people are down in Madison and doing something, we're not there at the computer able to spark the public out there. So I know early on when we had, basically when we it worked well when we were in an office talking to somebody and people were calling that phone number also.
Oh, okay, sure.
That it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease type of mentality, but it also just shows that we're a movement. The constituent cares. I'll give you an example. We're not going to name this senator anymore, but it was a Republican senator. He's no longer in office, so he can't be our ally, and he's not really our enemy anymore. But he was pretty much against marijuana reform, and we did a lot of street side lobbying in his district with his name on it and his phone number on it. At the same time, our lobbyist was in his office or trying to get in his office, and we did that pretty consistently. Like, okay, every Wednesday we know the lobbyist is going to try to hit this guy's office between 12 and 2. That's just the time he's worked that floor. We knew his schedule, and so we would go to different cities in this senator's district in busy intersections, look for constituents and urge them to call and just say these words, several different words. And so, I mean, it took a little bit of coordination, but it was easily done. And that can be very well mimicked now that the social media is much more prevalent than what it was in 2009 even.
Sure. And it still speaks volumes to me when a lot of these it's obviously mainly the Republican officials, and they can comment on all the goofy comments about cats eating dogs or whatever, right? They can comment on that, but I am on there ask about legalization questions stuff, and it never gets answered. It's really bizarre. I don't know, kind of crazy. So yeah, I think though that is a great way to keep at it too, because it's just a couple of us out there. But if all of a sudden, just like with the phone calls, all of a sudden, holy crap, every post I'm putting out, your aides are saying every post we're putting out is getting 35 people talking about cannabis legalization. What the,
and we also at that time we were very well coordinated. So I had somebody in office too that was processing. Basically, we had the signature forms that we collected in district, in person, from a live person. We would use those in our efforts. And so we would do the same thing. It would be like, okay, on this day when we're working this legislative office, we have to process those personal signatures also that we got from him, have it come from every direction. And then the other thing that's very very effective is finding out who people's centers of influence are, especially if we're talking about candidates, that if you know they have a center of influence or somebody that they turn to or listen to, it may be wise to lobby them also, or try to get one of their friends to support this issue, and somebody who has more contact with them, I would say.
I like that logic. That makes
sense. But definitely in politics, if they have somebody who is a center of influence who helps them make political decisions, that's very important also.
Sure. Oh shit! Why is the bus? What the hell?
The bus is back. The bus is back.
There, dude. What is happening? Hang on. Well, there's the bus. Anyway, dude, I'm so excited. It's a lot of. I'm trying to I don't know about you, Jay, but I feel like this is a pretty Bob thing. I get super excited about stuff, and then it's like I can't sleep. Or then it's like, okay, I know I need a break, but then I'll be doing something for 10 minutes. Like, okay, I just got to go back. But then I also get to the point where then I'll be like, wait, that's not good. And the next thing you know, it's like, where did all that time and effort go to? So I'm trying to take this super fresh approach, just keep it. Okay, because obviously it'd be super dope to have this before the election, but that is not realistic in understanding just a couple phone calls I made about wrapping a bus in the time frame that takes, and retrofitting, whatever.
Right. Well, definitely you got to get the wrap company in on the deal so they get a little bit of signage and do it for free or something like that. So I'm going to tell you, like when I went out to New York, I didn't buy much weed. I don't like to buy weed, et cetera, but I did buy weed out of a bus. Believe it or not.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, it was the Weed World bus or whatever, but it was like a food cart bus that was selling weed down in Times Square. So I was like, all right, I'm in Times Square. I might as well buy weed.
I got to try this, right? Well, I feel like if you were to get this bus down at Madison, that 420, after a couple weeks, people are going to they're going to know what's up at 420 and get them pre-rolls coming out of here, dude. Oh my gosh, it'd just be a beautiful sight.
Maybe, the one problem that I ran into in Madison is that pot's basically legal there already, so it's not that it's nothing special, but it is the hub of politics and lobbying and stuff like that. But it's like you can walk outside the Capitol and smoke a joint on the sidewalk, and no one's going to bother you any day, time of week.
I'm just going to make sure that because I've walked by Voss's office inside the building so many times, I just got to make sure he can see it from his office, and I got to he probably. I don't talk negative. I got to figure out when he's actually in his office and make sure when he's there, I'm there with that bus at least 100 times, I'm thinking. And
you remember the solidarity singers and the protests and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the type of vigilance we would need also, it is, I don't know. It's pretty tough. It's, I don't know if you're going to, I don't see the avenue to convince Voss for legalization. He's already signaled that he wants to do a ban on the Delta products and the all intoxicating hemp products. And so, when you're sending those type of signals out,
right.
There's John Boehner has changed. There's lots of Republicans who, once they've left office, have went into the lobbying field on the positive end of marijuana cannabis legalization. So, there's always hope, but I don't know. He's a hard guy to trust.
The good news is, hopefully, if we can get the House flipped, we won't have to worry about him being the speaker, at least. So
yeah, Republican Senate's pretty harsh though too.
Are they? Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. I got this question I wanted to say for the last one, buddy. Again, I can tell just by the influx of engagement and everything. Really glad you were on here. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate everything you're doing and have been doing to fight this fight, and look forward to doing whatever I can to help you in any capacity going forward. And we've kind of touched on that a couple of times, so I'm sure you know that. But looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of cannabis legalization in the state of Wisconsin?
For the legalization of it, or for the org, or overall, or
For both. I'm sorry. For
which question are you asking me on the check sheet, Bobby?
Yeah, you're good, man. Okay, good call. Looking ahead, it helps when you don't have like super small font. Looking ahead, what are your hopes for the Wisconsin Cannabis Activist Network and the future of cannabis legalization in the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I hope the future's green. I mean,
Yeah.
plain as that. So I hope it moves quickly towards that effect. But if not, the Cannabis Activist Network is going to be there to provide the guidance to candidates when they need it, field activists when they need it. We're going to be continuing to organize events. We're going to continue on organizing lobby days. So, we're only going to continue to grow after legalization. There's lots of important things that need to be done also, just with public education and make sure that you're safely storing your cannabis away from children, and we have to confront some driving issues and make sure that we're using cannabis responsibly in safe places. And so there's recreational, there's adult use, and there's safe adult use. So there's going to be a place for advocacy pre-legalization, during legalization, and post legalization. We are surrounded by corporate cannabis, which is fine. Corporate cannabis has its place. I don't have a magic wand and can't make everything perfect for everybody, but definitely I would see some sort of utopia out there where we would see lots of micro growers, where we would have more small boutique
farmers markets.
Yeah, farmers markets, basically craft cannabis. So basically, you're in charge of growing your plants, processing your plants, and selling your plants. 1-2 man operation, family operation, and have not multiple. I mean, there's going to be many of these. There's going to be a lot of these things all over the state. That creates, lots of variety in product, and from just each farmer's own hand, but also creates maybe some unique experiences that the corporate cannabis isn't allowing, going out to the family farm for this day or that day. I think we have to address consumption lounges right away, or on-site consumption in our law. We can't just have retail sales, etc. So I would look more for some sort of decriminalization right away of personal growing and personal possession, and just end prohibition for personal growers and personal possession altogether, and then move into that cannabis, whatever I guess I don't have the correct buzz term, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Have lots of growers and little shops everywhere. That should maybe even create some cannabis tourism in between. I mean, I got friends who go out to the supper club map that, they every Friday we're going to go to a different supper club to try out this on the map. And,
it's like, I don't drink hardly, maybe a 6-pack a year over the course of a year. But there was a point where before I just kind of really didn't care for drinking at all, it was neat to try different microbrews, to try different IPAs, or because somebody's putting their time, money, they're investing a lot into their craft and in their twist on it. And like a world, or even a state, but a world where I go to a place and I know Jay's got his, maybe his strain is Blue Jay. That is like nobody's gets me going at the gym like Blue Jay. I gotta go see Blue Jay. I gotta do some bartering with him. I'm gonna give him some of my Bobby Lights or whatever it might be. Like, and the amount of farmers we have here, like I think it could really be done right from that. If we call it the micro or but what actually, like you say, start with the home grow. That makes a lot of sense.
And
just focusing on the little guys.
Yeah. And as far as me as a cannabis consumer goes, I've tried lots of cannabis in my life, and I think the smaller the grow, not necessarily the smaller the grow, just by scale. But
Yeah,
it seems
I
like
get where you're going with it.
yeah, it seems like, I mean, but really the smaller, the more care and love someone can give a plant, the better the product comes out, and you just lose
Sure.
some of that when you don't control every aspect of it and have
That's a
employees and
valid
this
point.
and that. Not saying the product is bad, and there's probably a place for everything out there. I mean, I know just how the cannabis plant works. It's hard to produce supply, enough supply to meet demand, because there's a lot of demand in just the way the plant works and this and that. But
Sure.
so, but yeah, and prohibition in Wisconsin immediately, decriminalize that possession and that growing, and then try to do some sort of legislation that would really embrace and I think when early on, when laws started to get developed, they had the mentality that, and they still kind of do in the non-cannabis world, just with corporate farms and this type of stuff, that on the regulation end, it seems like it seems like politicians and lawmakers believe it's easier to regulate just a few facilities, or larger facilities, that we don't have as many people that need to run out there. So we have to have a shift kind of in that mentality, not just for cannabis, but for even just local food production. And we need to think locally and support locally the best we can. And
100%.
having that mindset in designing the cannabis bill, we might have something that looks dramatically different than what had been presented before us.
Sure. And I think one of the things I try to remind myself at times is, because obviously you've seen everyone else legalizing way before Wisconsin, and it's like, are we going to be the last? Whatever. We can look at the data that provides us, being a little later to the party, right? Like, let's take our time. Let's involve the farmers. Let's involve the people who've been doing it, like yourself, for the long. The people who have been around cannabis, reform, cannabis legalization in Michigan. Like, don't just think this isn't just another political play, right? This is something that you could really mess it up. Like, I could just see an unfortunate situation where, well, kind of like the pill bill. Thank God that didn't get legs, because that could have just drawn out and taken a bunch of time up. Like, let's get this figured out from the get go. Let's take our time, but work together. Get the people at the table, and figure it out. And just like you were kind of talking about with the small grower or whatnot, maybe Ashley from DNA Hemp is just a really good sales lady, but when you look at stuff, when you look at outdoor grow flower, right, it's like, that's not pretty. But when she told me like a month ago, we were just talking, she's like, just remember though, Beans, this is made, the cannabis plant is so unique, right? The different cannabinoids, how it interacts with the endocannabinoid system in our bodies, and just, it's ever morphing, these new cannabinoids we're learning about, that there's a lot to it. And to take something that in its natural habitat, you grow it and you care for it in the natural element, like, part of it felt like super crazy to me in a way, like, what is she talking about, right? But when I just smoked it and I didn't look at it like, oh, that ain't no indoor fluffy, whatever. I don't know, man. The outdoor growing is growing on me. So it's just a unique plant. I think any of it that's done the right way is great. I think, like you said, it's really about that passion. And it sucks when you grow it and you get that passion, because then you do have to chop it down. I do feel like that guy in Disjointed who's like talking to this plant. It's like, I'm so sorry, I got to kill you. That kind of stuff. But it's a journey, just like life. And it goes around, comes around, and, it goes where it goes. So I really appreciate your time. Jay, did you have anything else you would like to address to the folks that are swinging into the episode tonight? And thank you to everybody for stopping by.
I mean, we're close. We are
Yeah.
very, very, very close. This election is pretty important for cannabis reform here in Wisconsin. It's an uphill battle next session, no matter what we do, I think.
Sure.
But we're going to be close enough. A few votes, one way or another, are going to make or break the deal here, and I think that's true whoever is in leadership. And not only are elected officials becoming much more vocal, but we are also. And the more that we can unite in this fight, we're going to see it end quickly. And just stay active and stay engaged. And like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we have to run it that way.
Fair enough. I agree with you, man. I'll do my best to keep up with you. How about that? We'll see what
Yeah,
I can
no,
pull off here.
I'm glad you're in the race because we need more people in the race. Like I said,
No, definitely.
the end is near though. The end is near. We can
Sure.
And I think that's pretty important too because the momentum hasn't even started yet, So
Right.
the groundwork that we've laid and
Sure.
all of the infrastructure that we have, we're going to receive a immediate boost from that just because we have, we don't really need. I mean, we need elected officials to enact common sense laws. Don't get me wrong, but another opener that I've been using lately is we don't really need, especially again with the Republicans, is we don't really need them to legalize marijuana necessarily because there are intoxicating hemp products on the market. What we need them to do is just allow us to grow the high THC versions of it.
Sure.
We need them to allow the agricultural side of it. That everything else is already here. We just need them to allow us to grow the agricultural crop. And that's kind of an eye opener too, because now the only thing that's hurting is farmers. Prohibition is hurting farmers from the get go.
Right. Which is crazy. Although I will say part of the reason I left the industry and got into the advocacy is just there's a lot of people that are selling homemade quality, or we grew this, we made it in house, but the moment you try to trace where that stuff is actually coming from, no one has a clue. And I just would like to see some kind of, again, especially with politics in Wisconsin, it's very touchy for me to say, hey, legislator, we need a little oversight here, because you give that to Voss, and we're gonna be wearing straight jackets. But
with the potential ban, on the two things that are making noise right now are a potential ban coming should Republicans retain control in the assembly, because I mean Voss, we would assume that if they retain control, Voss would be elected leader again. So unless the Republican caucus in the assembly overthrows Voss internally and doesn't elect him the leader, if they retain control, we still got Voss. It's just,
hey, where is Voss's popcorn factory? Maybe the bus needs to hang out at the popcorn factory.
So I know there are laws against harassing politicians at their home and work.
Yeah, but what about their popcorn factory?
Yeah, so I don't know what the laws are regarding that, but I believe
just send me the info to the best lawyer you got, Jay.
Yeah,
I believe it's in
Burlington though, so
I'll do what I'm in the beginning. I was like, I just don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, and I try not to ruffle anybody. But let me just tell you, this Voss guy, I'm about ready to ruffle a couple feathers because
well, the whole hemp industry is really wants to do that because the potential ban would come from Voss. I mean, he's already signaled it. If he's the leader, he would orchestrate that. And then on the federal basis, they got one lady they can kind of pick on. She's called Mary Miller. She's
the Mary Miller amendment.
Yeah, the Miller amendment. So on the at least the industry that is here in Wisconsin is the hemp industry, and they know that they have to do something, and they would rather not even play defense. I think the best defense is sometimes a good offense. So I personally
see. What if the bus breaks down in front of Voss's driveway?
She's broke down.
Nothing you can do about that, man. Oh man, I gotta stop dreaming about that. I just need to get some real rest and then pick up on this tomorrow. But no, I appreciate you, Jay.
All right.
We definitely want to get some information to the people. So real quick, I'll talk to you about that tomorrow because I just want to make sure. What's really weird is I've only gotten flagged. Then we had that post the other day. You told me about it today or yesterday. But before that, nothing had gotten flagged except for when I called out Voss. But I did it really respectfully, and so I'm just cautious. I've been cautious about posting a post that says, if you're in this district, here's who supports, who doesn't. Make sure you do that when you vote. For some reason, I just need to make sure that we can, because I don't know if you need to be a 401c or 401.
Yeah, 501c4. Yeah, 501c4. Yeah, no. The post that you got flagged was just your HempFest post saying that you're going down to HempFest. So I don't even know. I don't know if that one got flagged other places too or not.
I risked it, and I put that you could get a beverage from one of our vendors, which I thought for sure that would be okay, and I could fight it, but they didn't let me say anything about it.
That would be it. Then that's the one.
That's why, again, guys. that please let your friends know when the thing with the bus goes live. It's going to say beans, but beans is green. And just share that with your friends. We can't have it on Kickstarter. So, all right, guys, I'm going to let you get out of here, Jay. Super appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you Saturday, and we'll chat tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good night, everybody.
Yep.
We'll catch you next week on the podcast.